Welcome to SVG-TV's news for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. Vincy Mass 2025 was officially launched today at Sandals with much hype and anticipation. Chief Executive Officer of the Carnival Development Corporation, Rodney Small, outlined a number of events for the 10 days of Carnival, which will culminate on July 8th with Juve. Small highlighted that this year's Carnival will place special emphasis on Juve and the people who make it possible.
A critical area of special focus will be the preservation and elevation of Juve, one of the most powerful and deeply cultural expressions of our heritage. Juve tells the story of our people, our pain, and our spirit, and it is time we treat it with the utmost respect it deserves. Our approach will be thoughtful, structured, and intentional, ensuring Juve is safe, respected, and positioned as a jewel in the Vincy Mass crown. I want to emphasize that there have been changes to our official Vincy Mass calendar, changes designed to put the patron's experience front and center. We have taken a bold approach to rethinking how events are packaged, how the mood and atmosphere of each experience is created, and how visual presentation and storytelling can enhance the emotional and cultural impact of every moment. This isn't just about events, it's about crafting a journey from start to finish.
Chairman of the Carnival Development Corporation, Ricardo Adams, stated that marketing efforts for Vincy Mass are ongoing with a particular focus on engaging the diaspora.
We're going to be in the diaspora talking to our Vincentian people, because I think for a few years we kind of lost that connection with the diaspora, and charity begins at home. The people who will most come to enjoy Vincy Mass are the Vincentians, and let me recognize the work of the Tourism Authority and the Ministry of Tourism in ensuring that we have a lot more flights. So now there's no argument as to whether you can make it home or not. And now there's no argument. We often say to people, if you can't make it for the peak of Vincy Mass, come for the rural carnivals, come for our activations, come for our launches. Because now you can jump on an aircraft and you can be here in time to go to an event the same day. And you know what? You can have a meeting on Monday morning and have dinner back on the eastern seaboard of the U.S.
Adams also mentioned that a high standard of music is expected, noting that there has been an increase in prizes for the various competitions. Meanwhile, Minister of Tourism Carlos James expressed his anticipation for a high-energy carnival, one that would showcase creativity, innovation across all segments.
Vincy Mass, as our largest cultural export, requires is the fresh energy and innovation, building out our human resource capital at the CDC, and working collaboratively with all the various stakeholders and partners to ensure that we build out a larger, more innovative and resource-driven platform that is going to drive and propel Vincy Mass beyond all of the expectations of stakeholders and persons who are patrons, who are part of the festival.
Additionally, there will be a separate carnival launch with some events scheduled to take place at the Diaspora airports. Finance Minister Camille Gonsalves at a forum hosted by Invest SVG in the UK over the weekend urged Vincentians there to take advantage of the opportunity to invest in their home country, starting with small investments in the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The UK meeting forms part of the inaugural Diaspora Outreach and Investment Program by Invest SVG, dubbed Home is Where the Heart Is, which seeks to engage Vincentians in the diaspora, informing them about how they can invest in their homeland and contribute to its growth.
The High Commission tells us that there are about 25,000 Vincentians living in the United Kingdom, and that now we have second-generation eligibility for citizenship. That number is a number approaching 50 25,000 Vincentians living here in the UK. The per capita income, the average income of someone living in the United Kingdom in EC dollars, you're going to have to do the conversions with me because I can't speak in pounds, is about 120,000 EC dollars. That means that collectively, if we assume that Vincentians make the average income, and I know some make more and some make less, but that's why it's called an average. You each year, the Vincentian diaspora in the United Kingdom, make between 3 billion and 6 billion EC dollars. You make more than the bank. And if 5,000 of you, of the 50,000 of you, picked up £200 and opened an account at the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have another £1 million, which would be somewhere between 1 and 2% of your deposits, not of your assets. And if the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines had another £1 million, another 3.5 million EC dollars on its balance sheet, think of what the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines could do to foster investment in your home country.
Noting that the BOSVG is setting up its diaspora unit along with support from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which will be verifying the relevant documents. Minister Gonzalez said this will make it much easier for Vincentians in the diaspora to invest back into their homeland.
And a lot of times when we have these conversations, there are people in the diaspora who say, yeah, well, I don't have that kind of money to do that sort of investment right now, or I'm not interested at this time. But if 5,000 of you open an account and put £200 in that account in the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines would be able to leverage that money to grow the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And you will have invested in your homeland by that very simple act. And that's not a big ask. It's not even a hard ask. And with a very small, almost token gesture back to your homeland in that regard, the economy of your homeland will be more vibrant, will be more resilient, and will be more able to foster investment. And you will have invested in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we're going to scale it up from £200 before we're done here. But I'm just saying that it's that easy. It's that easy to be an investor in your country. It's that easy to make a contribution, a tangible contribution, above and beyond what you're already doing. And I know a lot of you are already doing things.
In reference to property investments, the finance minister told the gathering in Brentford that the best time to invest in real estate is yesterday. However, it is not too late for them to invest at home.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines does not have property speculation, property speculators who invest in property to hold it, to sell it, and that sort of a thing. People buy and hold in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We don't have large capital investment funds and firms and financial institutions that invest in land. So you don't get property bubbles. You don't get speculators that artificially inflate the price of land and then the bubble bursts and your property loses value. It doesn't happen in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Your property is steadily going to increase in value, your land. There's no record in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, even during COVID, when property in the United Kingdom was taking a nosedive, and you hear, well, this neighborhood was once a very expensive neighborhood, but now it's not an expensive neighborhood. We don't have the type of speculation that drives that activity. So property is going to be more expensive tomorrow than it is today. And it was cheaper yesterday than it is today. And if you are even thinking about buying or building a home in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, do it now. Do it now before there are additional Virgin flights from Heathrow to Argyle. Do it now before there are additional flights from New York to Argyle. Do it now before they just announced yesterday that there are going to be daily flights from Atlanta, Georgia to the Argyle International Airport. All of that is going to spur increased interest in property.
Invest SVG will be hosting similar outreach sessions in the United States and Canada to further strengthen connections with the diaspora and foster investment in SVG's future. Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves has addressed several issues raised by the opposition New Democratic Party concerning the construction of the new port in Kingston, specifically regarding the recent declutching of sheet piles and the associated additional costs. PM Gonsalves reiterated that the additional costs will not be borne by the government and emphasized that all necessary rectification work is being carried out in accordance with the revised plan developed by the contractor.
What we said here first, the declutched sheet piles will be rectified. And there's a plan for that, which is what I had said long ago. And secondly, along the quay wall will be recompacted to design standard. But the actual work method for this recompacting, our technical people have not received the work method as yet, but they will get it. Schedule impact. While the contractual end date is August the 31st, 2025, we are working closely with the contractor and supervision consultants in this regard to ensure that the rectification works are executed safely and efficiently. Resource mobilization will be adjusted subject to the pace of the rectification works and other factors such as weather conditions, especially given that we are entering into the 2025 hurricane season. Cost of rectification works. The contractor is pursuing the remedial works as part of his contractual obligation and pursuing recovery of costs through his insurance. The cost of the rectification works will not be the responsibility of the state. There may be other things for which we are responsible for, but not this.
The Prime Minister also added that there has been widespread misinformation and misunderstanding surrounding the project. He assured the public that work is progressing at a steady pace, with shifts in operation ensuring that the project continues without significant delays.
Progress of rectification works. 4 teams are currently executing the welding of the plates to close the gap. This work is being done on a 24-hour schedule with a day shift and a night shift. To date, plates have been installed and completed between sheet piles S87 and S112, or approximately 70 meters of the quay wall. I want you to hear this sentence. An above surface manifestation of the rectification work. An above surface manifestation of the rectification work would not be visible until the compaction phase commences on or around the first half of June 2025.
The Hurricane Barrel Emergency Response and Livelihoods Recovery Program provided much-needed supplies to CMOS farmers and the fishermen in Bequia who are impacted by Hurricane Barrel. The program received support from the United Nations Central Emergency Response Fund and the Government of Canada and was carried out by the Food and Agricultural Organization, the FAO of the UN. The Bequia Fisheries Complex served as the venue for the distribution. Chief Fisheries Officer Jennifer Cruikshank Howard stated that all southern Grenadines islands are expected to receive packages from the FAO, with sea moss farmers among those included in the initiative.
After Hurricane Beryl, the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, has kindly donated items to the Ministry of Agriculture for the fisher folks of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, mainly the fisher folk of the Grenadines. We have been waiting on FAO and the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for these materials and items that we will be donating to you today. We have not received all of the items, but because of the long delay, we made a decision that we will start doing something with what we have. So we started with Beckway in the Grenadines, so you may get all of the things that were designated to persons, and then after Beckway, we go to the other islands in the lower Grenadines. Sea moss producers, they have been also included in the FAO package for distribution. This fishery has been increasing in its production, and over the last 5 years, ever since we had the eruptions of the last Soufrière, we have seen persons have been gravitating to this industry or to this type of fishery as a form of their livelihood. So we are very pleased to be able to extend some donation to these producers as part of what we are offering from the FAO.
Police officer Trevor Buju Bailey, who is in charge of crime, has stated that the criminally insane man who will be housed at the mental health institution after completing his sentence will be isolated and under strict security. Bailey made these comments during an interview on Radio Today, addressing concerns about the safety of the staff at the institution. Bailey responded to questions regarding the fare of staff. Acknowledging their concerns, he explained that Webster Woodley, the man in question, will soon complete his 25-year sentence for murder. However, Bailey noted that Woodley developed mental health challenges during his time in prison, leading authorities to decide that institutionalizing him in a secure mental health facility would be the most appropriate course of action.
When his sentence is complete, just like you and I, he is a human being and he has rights like everybody else.
Yeah.
So after his sentence is completed, he can't stay in prison incarcerated. But because of the assessment that has been received by the authorities, the state is performing its civic duties in ensuring the security of its nationals. So I don't think that Mr. Woodley is in the best of health to be released to walk the streets of Kingston. So the state is and has built a facility on the mental health compound, specifically for him alone.
Bailey further added that staff at the institution have been briefed on how to handle the patient, both from a health and security perspective. He ensured that proper measures are in place to ensure the safety of both staff and other patients.
In other words, the compound, the building that is built for him is not just built there, but it will be properly secure with outer perimeter fence where he can have recreation. He can come out of his dwell and have recreation in the yard and so forth. And the security and the compound itself will be boosted. Now, I don't want to go into all of the details, but I was part of a meeting with the staff at mental health, and these issues were ventilated. They advanced their concern. The concerns were addressed from a Ministry of Health point of view, from a security point of view. The superintendent of the prison was also in the meeting, and he gave the staff there updates in relation to behavior patterns of this patient. Because you cannot refer to Mr. Woodley going forward after his sentence has finished. As a prisoner, he is no longer a prisoner. He is now a patient at the mental health institution. In terms of the interaction with Woodley, the staff will have, naturally, when they have to give medication, that will be the interaction, and to a lesser extent, not so much in nurses, but the other staff in terms of feeding.
In addition to his 25-year sentence for murder, Bailey revealed that Woodley has also been charged with 3 other murders. The decision to transfer him to a mental institution comes after careful consideration of his mental health and the need for specialized care. Family environments have a significant influence as one of the factors determining a child's behavior. This insight was shared by medical social worker Kevin Glasgow during the Police on the Beat program yesterday, where he discussed the topic bullying and violence in schools, the effects and consequences. Glasgow emphasized that there are multiple factors contributing to bullying, many of which are centered around individuals seeking power within groups. He noted that their peer pressure and desire for social dominance often plays a key role in fostering aggressive behaviors in children.
We just don't get up and start acting. The behavior that we see, they started somewhere, whether it's a pattern, whether it's learned. But we have to understand there are multiple factors. And one of the critical areas that we have to always be mindful of is the family environment. That plays a significant factor and impact on individuals developing certain behaviors. We also have to look at issues around self-esteem, insecurity. We have challenges also when we look at supervisions. I mean, before used to have that close look, parents having that eye, persons really having the time to look at our children, but we're having them unsupervised, and that contributes to persons developing these behaviors. We also have to look at peer pressure, and bullying is centered around power. The imbalance of power, and people use that power to exert or control others. And when we say power, power could be exemplified in strength, in popularity, or even in words. And it impacts persons in such a way that, causes them to develop certain behaviors. So those are some of the factors or some of the things that contribute to the development of bullying in schools or bullying generally.
Glasgow also stated that bullying is a major public health issue as it negatively impacts the mental health of victims. He pointed out that the emotional consequences of bullying are often overlooked, but can have long-lasting effects on the psychological well-being of the individuals targeted.
Bullying is not just a social issue, it's a public health issue. And we would explore safety, but we want to explore mental health. Right? It affects a child in so much that they might develop things around, like anxiety, depression. To the extreme, you might even have persons self-harming, suicidal. That's the extent to which the emotions. Because I like to give this framework. When you think about emotion, motion, energy moving through your body, energy that needs to be discharged, energy that could be good or bad. But if it does not come out, it would fester. So think about when persons are suffering in silence, the pain that causes. And when it festers, sometimes you have these outbursts. Sometimes you have these strange behaviors. And so the emotional pain and scar has significant impact on their mental health, and it does not address their physical health.
Furthermore, Glasgow explained that failing to address the problem of bullying can create a toxic school environment where children may not feel safe to learn or socialize.
Understand that the behavior, the actions, they bully others. That came from somewhere. Something happened to them why they think that this is okay. And I know we've been having conversations about what is modeled, and that is important. But children observe and they absorb. And so the environments that they're in causes them to think that this is okay, right? And so the whole idea of power, being able to control, right? That stems from somewhere too as well. So they are affected, and they are individuals that we have to pay attention to, because if we don't address the cause of what they're doing, then we have not only individuals affected, the school climate is affected. And think about our children going to schools not feeling safe. So we cannot ignore them. We have to pay attention and try to understand how we could help them. because they are in need of help. There is a problem that needs to be addressed.
The social worker also urged parents, teachers, and the broader community to become more involved in children's lives, providing support and guidance in an effort to minimize the occurrence of bullying. Counseling is not about the counselor always talking, but about establishing a safe environment where children feel secure. This is according to Councillor Kelsey Cambridge, who spoke on NBC Radio's Talkie Talk program this morning. Cambridge emphasized that when working with children who have experienced trauma, it is essential to establish a trusting bond with the child.
So, when a child comes to receive counseling, it's not just a case where I sit them down and I say, hey, tell me what your problems are. It is not that hard and, well, easy, I should say. It's rather difficult because at times a child will be coming and they're traumatized by what they have experienced. So you have to be able to gradually work your way through, counseling a child, ensuring that they are safe. I usually talk about the same safe space, that you are safe here and there's no form of judgment that is going to take place to you, because children at times they get very scared because a counselor, a strange person is talking to you and he wants to find out all this information. So you have to be very creative in the ways in which you address a child who has experienced some form of trauma.
He also highlighted some of the ways counselors and guardians can help foster trust, including encouraging open lines of communication and avoid pushing children into conversations they are not ready for.
There's play therapy for young children. You introduce play therapy, make them as comfortable as possible, and you would start to see that, they would start to open up if it's a case where you have maybe some drawings that they can engage, as they sit there and stuff like that. You tend to do that, and gradually you start to get them to open up, and you would start to see that, the child is becoming a bit more, brave as it relates to them talking about the issues. So, of course, I encourage journaling as well as another means of getting a child to express themselves. If it's a case where they don't want to talk, I would say write it down. Write it down, talk about your day. What are the things that affect you? And after a while, it will be a discussion. Okay, you wrote about this on this particular day. How were you feeling? So when you're providing counseling to that child, you're giving them a voice. You're giving them the opportunity just to vent. Counseling is more of active listening. It's not about the counselor talking all the time, but you're giving that child a space to express themselves.
Cambridge further stated that counseling is not a quick fix, as healing takes time, and that one has to ensure that an affected child has the necessary support both inside and outside of therapy sessions.
And what I usually find is that, at times you provide counseling services and you feel as if you're not making any headway. And I've been there. And I know other counselors would have been there. They're saying, I've done my best with this child and nothing has worked. What I tend to do, I just continuously, encourage that child, and after a while, you'd start to see a shift. But the thing about it is that the problem that we find is that at times when you provide the counseling for that child, it might be a case where the home environment where the trauma occurred, that child has to go back to that environment, and sometimes that can re-traumatize a child and it has to start all over again. So we have to try to see how best we can do our counseling services and ensure that when that child goes back home or goes wherever that child is, that they are still receiving some sort of therapeutic intervention. And I think the constant and consistent encouragement, talking to them, those are some of the means as which we can, try to break the silence that child has.